And we are in the greenhouse today. It's been a while. I've been very busy. Lots of work going on at this time of year. So we're talking about Streptocarpus, and more specifically when Streptocarpus don't bloom. Now, looking at my display over here, you might be forgiven for thinking that I'm talking about other people. Well, no, I'm not. I'm actually talking about my Streptocarpus. So it is actually mid to late August now. And yes, I do have a nice display of Streptocarpus. Is it the best I've ever had? Not by a long chalk. Is it, or have they come at the same time of year as they normally do? Again, not by a long chalk. They normally come in round about March, April time, and then I've pretty much got blooms right the way through. This year was terrible. It was a disaster. And before I go into those reasons as to why I think that happened, which is obviously the title of the video, let's just have a quick look at the blooms, because that's what we all like, isn't it? So I'm not going to name them all. I'm just going to kind of go through them all just so that you can see close up what they look like. Beautiful flower, that one. I mean, they're all beautiful. I'm not going to say they're all, some are nice and some are not. If I don't like them, I get rid of them. But you can see already it's a little bit thin on the ground. That's nice. This time of year, you normally expect them to be in full throttle, completely covered in flowers. And you would have expected that right the way through from April, to be honest, in my environment at this time of year, you know, coming up to late summer. I've also got a couple of other gesneriads, which are not Streptocarpus specifically, but the same family, obviously, that I brought these all from the hothouse. This is Escananthus Hot Flash. That has had a fantastic show, but that was over in the hothouse, and that wasn't affected by the reasons I'm going to talk about. This is coming to an end now. The flowers have all gone. It's lasted ages. That supposedly is going to die off. But you can already see we've got some here that's not in bloom. That one isn't. There's a couple over there that's not in bloom. There's some very odd looking little flower spikes which will not amount to anything. I can tell just by looking at them that they're all going to completely blast. Again, there's another one there that hasn't flowered. Got one or two little flowers dotted about the place here, but it isn't the usual display. And if I just turn you round, if I can manage that without being too jarring, down here at the bottom, not a single flower. Now that's not because that's where I've put them. I've put a lot of the ones that don't flower underneath the benches just to get them out the way. And if I take you through over here, I have, let me see, I have another couple here that haven't bloomed for actually. And we've got an Echimines. I think that's a gesneriad. I keep calling this one Escananthus Yellow Beauty, and somebody corrected me. For some reason, it just stuck in my head that it was an Escananthus. It's not. It's nothing like an Escananthus, is it? It's a Echimines. It does actually look like it's in the gesneriad family to me. That's a nice little one. It needs a repot. And I think we have another couple over there. Again, not doing anything, and I would normally have expected them to be doing something at this time of year. So what are the reasons? Why have my Streptocarpus not given me what they normally give me? Now, first of all, let's just say that as the sun goes lower in the sky and the temperatures in the greenhouse are nowhere near as high, I am expecting these to really come good now between now and the rest of the year. So I would expect through September, October, November, until the temperatures really drop, then I would expect to still see a fantastic show, better than what you can see here. So the reasons, let's get right to it. So first reason, pretty surprising reason maybe, especially for the UK, is the temperatures. So we had a really hot kind of late spring and early summer, and the greenhouse, because I was going to, and I still am, going to actually insulate it with some different material to this bubble wrap that you can see. I am going to put some foil up there. I was going to do it last year. If you remember, I ended up in hospital on the very weekend I was going to do it. So I never got round to doing it after that because I was in recovery. But in preparation for that, I completely shut all the windows, all the vents in the greenhouse. So this year, when it was hot outside, it was specifically hot in here. It was well over 40 degrees in here. Now, I know there's hot and hot. I've just come back from Dubai pretty recently, and boy, that was hot. That was like 47 degrees during the day. Just unbearable. But in here it can get up to 40 quite easily, especially when everything's closed up. I haven't been opening the doors again this year because I didn't want the same pest problem, so that also amplified the heat. I have got shading up, but it still wasn't good enough, and that doesn't do well for Streptocarpus. Streptocarpus do not want to be in the 30s and 40s. They prefer to be somewhere between about 15 and 25 is the preferred temperatures. Okay, so that's the first reason why they didn't really get a good start this year. Second reason, you can see one or two of them are beginning to go yellow in the leaf. Now that is a good thing, and this is something that I really didn't expect. So I normally fertilize my Streptocarpus when this happens. As soon as I can see these leaves, which start off at the beginning of the year really deep green, as soon as I can see them beginning to go slightly yellow, or that kind of mottled effect, then I would start to feed them. I usually use Dibley's proprietary tablets, and you pop one little white tablet into the top of each pot, and it supposedly lasts a month. Now, according to Dibley's, according to the pot, the back of the pot, it says that you should do that once a month, once the season starts. So I abandoned what I normally do. I normally wait until I can see the yellowing of the leaves. First of all, once I've cleaned them all up, and I've loads of videos showing this specifically, once I've cleaned them all up at the end of the year, December, January time, then I would wait for them to come into growth a little bit, maybe February, March, then I would feed them right from the start, and then I wouldn't feed them again until they started to yellow, as we've just pointed out. But this time I thought, well, they're no better than I do, they are a hybridizer. Of course, I'm not dissing Dibley's. This is simply, you know, we're talking about different conditions. They don't have the same conditions as I have here. So what they suggest, or what the back of the pot suggests, is that you feed them every month, once a month, and that's what I did right from March, April, May, June. What did I get? Some fabulous deep green foliage, but at the expense of blooms. And that was the surprising mistake for me. I will not repeat that again. I'm convinced that yes, we've said the temperatures didn't help, but they just didn't get a good start. They looked as healthy as anything. They had fantastic foliage, great big long, thick, luscious looking leaves, but alas, no blooms. And if they did begin to show me some flower spikes, it was this kind of thing. Really small, malformed spikes that never actually amount to anything. They don't turn into blooms. They very often don't even open up. And it's taken 2 or 3 months of me not feeding them for them to actually come back to life and start to flower. Now, it's not just Streptocarpus that do that. That can happen with many plants. If you overfeed them, they can actually start to just produce vegetative growth, and that will be at the expense of flowers. So that was the main takeaway for me, not to feed them according to that plan, but to go back to doing what I did, my tried and tested method of only feeding them when they look like they need it. Feed them right at the beginning and then wait, let them start to bloom, and only feed them when they begin to yellow in the leaf. Over here is another Escananthus. This is longicornis. Now, I've never actually had this bloom yet, so I've had this one a couple of years now. Beautiful foliage on it, so I'm looking forward to that doing something. At the moment it's in a very small pot, so I think that will need a repot, and then maybe next year will be its year to look as good as this one does when this one is in bloom. I'll just show you those blooms again. This was completely covered a week ago in these lovely flowers, and I think that's its second or third blooming this year. So those are the reasons as to why my Streptocarpus didn't bloom. But I think you can see now that they're looking pretty good. That is beautiful, isn't it? really nice. And if there's any in there you want me to name, just let me know which it is. Give me a timestamp, please. Don't just say it's the one next to the one that's looking like it's got a bit of purple in it. Very, very difficult for me to identify then. Okay, so just before I sign off, the channel has changed a little tiny bit. I've got a new name, I've got a new mission, which I will talk about in some length in a different video. But as you can see, we are still talking about plants. Plants will still be a central theme, but I've just changed things slightly so that I can delve into other areas. It's about growth in general. It might not be growth of plants. Lots of it will be about growth of plants, but it will also be about growth of other things. It will be about growth of health, growth of income, the things that you do when you get to a certain age and everybody thinks you should be stopping doing, but no, we don't want to stop, do we? We want to keep going and keep improving things. That's kind of a very loose little run through of what it's going to be about. So, Streptocarpus, hope you like them. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.